Alright guys, I don't know if I inserted the clip of the car, how it sounds right now, but it's making a weird ticking noise even after we did all that procedure where we cleaned the lifters. It's still making a noise, and what I suspected that it is a lifter, that it has some junk in it, like this lifter you can see, took it apart, and I'm thinking that there's metal in between this piece and in between the actual lifter, which is just causing the noise in between this. Because we didn't take the time to properly disassemble them like this and clean them. So what we're gonna do right now is do an oil change, because we have reached the 100-mile break-in that we were doing. Last night we got into 9 pounds and the lifters were a little noisy. My brother keeps saying the drivetrain noise, but we'll see about that. So right now what I'm gonna go ahead and do is plop in some of this motor flush, and the instructions, it says to put it in, run it for 5 minutes, and don't rev it above idling RPM, and then drain your oil and pop in new oil. And the oil that we're using is Rotella T6 5W40. Heard the Subaru guys use it to quiet down their forged internals. And a K&N oil filter, HP 107. But after we did that drive where we got into 9 pounds of boost, I did pull the dipstick and it did have a little bit of moon glitter in it, so I'm kind of suspect on what it could be. But right now I'm gonna go ahead, throw in that motor flush, run the car for 5 minutes. You don't want to run it for more than 5 minutes. Do not rev it, and turn it off, lift it up, crack your oil filter loose a little bit, and pull your drain plug. And we'll go from there. I'll show you guys how the oil looks and everything. Alright guys, as you can see, I have the oil draining. For what it looks like, there is moon dust for sure. But I won't know fully till it's all out and I put it back. So we'll see. Alright guys, I got the oil all drained out. As you saw, there was fucking moon dust. So I don't know if you want to say that this motor's done too. But we're going to try either way. If it's still fucking making that noise, because I'm going to put the 7 quarts of this oil in. I already put a little bit in the oil filter. Obviously, you lube up the oil filter's O-ring threads and fill it up. I got that in. And then what I'm going to do now is just fill it up with the rest with 7 quarts of this Rotella T6. And after that, I'm going to run it, warm it up, let it get up to temp, and just rev it a little bit, see if the noise is still there. If the noise is still there, a little bit, then we'll take it out for a spin. Press on it like we did last night, fucking 30 pounds of boost. If it's still making the noise, then what we're gonna do is tear it down again. I know it fucking sucks, but what we gotta do, tear it down and change the lifters to some Johnson just pop-in lifters. I forgot the name of them, but I'll throw it up on the screen. But we'll go ahead and do that. If we have to do that, then we'll just sell that intake that we repaired, get the money there, and we'll go from there. But right now, crossing our fingers that it was just that they were dirty, the lifters, and with that motor flush that it helped them out. But right now I'm gonna just pop in that oil and I'll show you guys when we're right about to start it. All right guys, I got the 7 quarts in and made sure the oil level is right. So right now I'm about to start it and see if they're still loud. Let it get up to temp, rev it up, see if I can hear anything. If not, we're good. Well, for the most part, we're good. But if I hear it already, then we know more than likely it is those fucking lifters. But we'll go from there. Alright guys, I got the car up running. As you can see, our oil pressure is good. It's not 80, it's around 65, but the gauge is off. And then you can see our temp, we're about we're about 160, so around where it's in the middle right there, I'm gonna kick on the fans, and then from there I'll rev it up. But first, when I turned it on, it was revving up all weird as fuck. So I just unplugged the fuel pumps, primed it 3 times, plugged them back in, and now it's running strong. But I'm gonna wait for it to get up to temp, and then we'll rev it and do the final decision. Alright guys, what we're gonna go ahead and do now is just start taking apart the motor. I posted in the F-Body Empire group. I don't know if you guys saw, but if you are in the F-Body Empire group, you probably saw this exact car. Telltale sign that you saw is if you see the Spulenstein sticker. But yeah, I posted it, and 2 people, one of our buddies named Caesar, he told us just to run stock LS7 lifters, and some other guy did too. They both made well over what we made. So I think we're just gonna go ahead and get those orders from Summit. Summit has them at I think around 4:30, and they ship tomorrow. So just gotta run to the ATM and do that. But yeah, we're gonna start the teardown process. See how long it takes us to tear down the whole motor. It'll probably take us about a day. We'll probably have it ready by tomorrow night. But yeah, we'll see how far we get and everything. And yeah, fuck it. Alright guys, don't ask me how I have the camera set up. I'll insert a clip, I'll insert a photo right here if I have one. But yeah, we're gonna record this tear down. We got a little bit of time left before we have to stop and wrap up shop. But yeah, we're gonna go ahead and continue on this tear down and see how long this tripod lasts before it drops my phone. Alright guys, it's day 2 of the turnout. It's Monday at like I'd say almost 8, but just about 8. We're gonna continue with the teardown. All that I've done since the last clip, or all that we've done since the last clip, is take off the turbo blanket and pull the spark plug wires and take off the oil catch can from over there. But we're gonna go ahead and continue. Alright guys, all we've done since the last clip is drain the radiator. That's why you see all the antifreeze on the floor. And then I'm just waiting for the motor to finally unleash all the coolant, but as you can see, there's fucking coolant right there, so. Alright guys, we got the fucking radiators still pumping out coolant from that fucking area right there, but we're just gonna leave it for right now. Alright guys, we're back after some dramatic shit that went down, but what we're gonna do now is go ahead and remove this, go ahead and loosen the manifold bolts. Alright guys, we're about to pull off the head. My brother's ready and set to pull off the head, see what we see. Alright guys, we're gonna go ahead and remove the lifters on this side.
not too worried about that. Like this side wasn't as loud. It was still loud, you know. I still had some noise, but it wasn't as loud as the driver's side. But we're gonna go ahead and call it a night. It's getting late, so we're just gonna go ahead and just cover the engine up and just call it good. More than likely, what we'll do before we start it again is we'll first we're gonna, before we put the head back on and all that jazz, right? We're gonna get our lifters in and whatnot, but clean all the coolant out that was in the cylinder walls. So we'll take the engine over multiple times to make sure all the coolant gets pushed the fuck out. And then we'll do a complete oil change once again to drain out any water that might have gotten inside the block. And then we might just do it with some cheapy oil, right? We'll run it for like 5 minutes with motor flush. We'll change the oil one more time. And then we'll put in whatever the fuck we want, whether if it's T6 synthetic 540 or just regular Delo 1540. But that's the plan in the foreseeable future. But for now, we're just gonna go ahead and call that a night.
Alright guys, it's a few days later, and obviously you could tell that the other head is off. It was the same process as the other side, truly. So we didn't show that, but my brother was the one that did it, so that's why I also couldn't do it, because we're using my camera. But this is how the other head looked. It's clean and everything. But the thing that we did notice was, let me see if I can find it, that the lifters did have some wear on the sides. Well, obviously on the sides, how I showed you, like right here. And then wear on the roller, on the side of the roller. Try to show you another one. See that wear on the side of the roller? And then these ones on this side had worse wear on the sides. Can't really see it. There's just little wear on the sides. These ones didn't. These ones also had wear on the side of the roller, as you can see. Truly, it should be smooth, not all that. All those lines, you can see like little nicks in it. Right there, you can see too. But that's truly what our problem was, what we think and what we hope. So all we're gonna do is get those new lifters put in. We did end up ordering some Morals 7717s, I think they're called. We're gonna pop those in. We got some OEM lifter trays this time, and bolt those in. We got new head studs because they were Chinesium head studs, and I've seen a lot of write-ups on LS1Tech about people using Chinesium head studs, untorquing them and then torquing them again, and then snapping in the block. And truly, with our block out of the, where our block in the motor, with our block in the car, we don't want that to happen. So we're just gonna take the safety measure and buy another pair of those Chinesium studs. Just get some Amazon special ones. But yeah, once that's all in, we're just gonna reuse our head gasket because it looks fine. Just gonna just re-copper coat it, and it should be fine. Maybe just clean it and then re-copper coat it. But looks like the head was running strong. Doesn't look bad at all. But yeah, the lifter should get here on Saturday, it says. Today is Wednesday, so not too far away. And we'll get everything back together, and hopefully we'll get it running by, you know, depending on what time they get here on Saturday, either Saturday night or early Sunday. But we'll see, because it was also a pain to get the turbo stuff off, because the manifold studs on this side were bent, so we had to take the manifold off with the whole white pipe out from under. Don't ask me how much of a pain it was, because it was very much pain. But yeah, we'll continue from here when the rest of the parts get here. All I'm gonna do right now is just clean up the block in there where the lifters go, and clean up the heads, make them look a little bit better, and we'll go from there. Guys, here's a few days later from the teardown clip that we took in. The only thing that we've done since that clip is just taking the other head that I took off my my 6.0, the one that is chilling right here, and I got it all cleaned up. The reason I did that was because we did break a stud into the other 317 that we had on, and because there was some Huron speed hardware, it like cross-threaded when we were making it tight. And then when we were trying to take it out again after the process of what we've been doing, it snapped in the head. And I welded like 5 nuts onto it. Every one of them snapped and snapped, so I just decided to change it out. But yeah, it's looking pretty good. All the valves are lapped. We're good there. And obviously the other head is good. We lapped the valves when we first rebuilt the motor, but Right now, we just got our BTR order in. Obviously, our lifter trays are right here. I just took it out the bag, but these are OEM lifter trays. They look pretty good. And then here are the Morels right here. You can see, it doesn't say the name, but here they are. Morel 7717s, one set. And let me open it for you guys. That's how they look. If you ask me, in my opinion, they look pretty good. I'll take one out the box for you. Here's how they look. They look pretty beefy compared to the other ones. What I did notice is that they have that line on every one of them. On this side they don't, but the roller's wide enough where all it looks good. The only thing that we did notice is when you shake it back and forth, it makes this noise. But I was looking at the other ones, and I was looking at the old set, and they do make that noise as well. So we're just going to run them. See, you can see that they move back and forth. But right now, what I'm gonna go ahead and do is just get all of these in a bucket, soak them in my 1540 oil, and soak them for a few hours before we start to get this motor put back together. Let me show you the block. See, everything's still there as we took it apart in the last clip. So all we're gonna do from here is get those lifters soaked in oil, soak them for a few hours, get them put them with the trays, torque them down, everything like that. And then we're gonna clean the head surfaces a little because there's some copper coating from the head gaskets. And we are reusing our head gaskets. Hopefully we don't regret it, but pretty sure we'll be good as long as we copper coat them, which we are. Clean them up and then copper coat them again. And then get the head put back on. We would like to get this car started today, but in reality, it's not gonna happen because we have to measure for our push rods again. And we gotta measure and make sure everything's good and then get those ordered in. We would reuse our old push rods, but we made a promise that we were gonna get a whole new valve train assembly. So we got obviously our lifters and stuff, and then we want to measure for a proper push rod length because the thrust, the preload on these lifters is different from LS7 lifters. I think I've seen people run it to about 80 thou or something like that, something around that, or something like that. I'll get it put in the clip when I figure out the right number. But yeah, hopefully in the next clip we start putting this motor back together. All right, guys, we got the lifters right here. We've been soaking them in oil for almost all day now. It's nighttime currently. So what we're gonna do is go ahead and take them out and then strap them up to the GM Performance lifter trays and then go from there. And we should be able to just pop them right in. So I'll show you guys when we have it assembled, when we're putting it in, and then when we torque everything down. All right, guys, we got the lifters and the lifter trays. Everything's good. Now what we're gonna do is go ahead and drop them in and then torque down the bolts. All right, guys, we got all the lifters in. They're pretty self-explanatory. You just pop them in once you have them all constructed like that. Put them in. Don't smash them or anything. Just slowly push them in and they'll guide themselves in. And then these bolts, you put Loctite on them and run them down hand tight with a 1/4-inch ratchet, because these do strip out very easily, and they're only torqued down to 110 inch-pounds, which is about hand tight. But that's 110 inch-pounds on a Gen 3, and they're around 96 inch-pounds on a Gen 4 motor. But since this is a Gen 3 block, we just hand tight. It'd be the same shit. But yeah, for tonight we're gonna wrap it up because it is getting late. But tomorrow, what we're gonna try to do is get our LS9 head gaskets copper coated. We're gonna try to put on the LS9 head gaskets on, put our heads on, and torque everything down, and then measure for our push rod length and get those push rods ordered, because we could truly just go with our stock 7400s push rod length, but since these are aftermarket push rods and the preload is different, since these are aftermarket lifters and the preload is different, we do want to make sure we measure correctly and everything, so we won't have any problems in the valve train area anymore. But this is gonna wrap it up for tonight, and I'll open up the video again tomorrow and probably early morning or afternoon. Alright guys, we have the car about ready to put on the heads. All we did is put in the guides for the heads, obviously. And then what we're gonna do right now is just chase the threads on the head bolts just to make sure that they're clean and nothing snaps when we're torquing it down. But from here, we're gonna go ahead and slap the heads on and then go from there.
Alright guys, so for our head gaskets, what we've been using recently is a quick coat of copper coat on there. Just to, I guess, have another added layer of safety on there. I did see somewhere on one of the forums that you're not supposed to use copper coat on MLS head gaskets, but you know, fuck it. I mean, we did it already, and it's fine. And other people on the forum said they done it as well. You know, I think it was only one guy that said that you're not supposed to, but that's besides the point. We set these little dowels in so the head gasket doesn't fall off, and then so it could be easier to put on the head. Because if you own an F-body, you'll know how much of a bitch it would be to try to put the head over studs. You know what I mean? So it'd be easier just to send it like that and then put the studs through. Basically how the diesel guys do, where they do one stud at a time. But that's how we're gonna do ours, just to make it a little bit easier on our end.
All right guys, we're gonna get this head put on. Wish me luck.
Bam, bam. All right, start the motherfucker. It's like
Ready to start. So.
yeah, that's good now. Oh yeah.
All right, guys, we got both heads on. If you can, take the power steering pump off and do it the right way. Just put the head bare, but we can't do it because the puller that we have got stripped out, so we just had to send it. It was a little bit difficult, but as long as you have two hands, as long as you have two people, you'll be good. It's pretty straightforward. Now what we're gonna do is put in the studs and then put in the washers and then put on the nuts and torque everything down, and I'll go ahead and show that process. All right guys, what we're gonna go ahead and do next is, I'm pretty sure you've seen it plenty of times on our YouTube videos, but you're gonna run the studs in just hand tight with some sort of grease. We're using ARP grease, but you can use any type of grease, and you run them down with a T30, do them hand tight. And then after that, you put your nut, you put your washer on, and then your nut, and you torque everything down. But right now what we're gonna go ahead and do is get all the studs put in, the bottom ones, the middle ones, and then the top ones, and then we'll be right back.
All right, guys. So right now what we're doing now is pretty much just tightening down the studs, and we're just using, like my brother said, a T30. And we're gonna just tighten them down until they get like hand tight, and then we're gonna put the washer and nut. But we're just doing this right now just to alleviate a step, because last time we just had them hand tight without using a ratchet, and it will take forever to get to the proper torque spec, because if it makes sense, the nut got seated on the head, but then it started pushing the stud through because the stud wasn't fully seated, so it took forever to torque down the head. But so we're just basically eliminating an extra step by just doing this right quick. But we got to do this to all of them, and then we'll be clear to start putting the washers and nuts on them.
And make sure when you're doing all this head stud work, make sure, or even head bolts, make sure your holes are clean, because you could run a risk of snapping a stud or a bolt into your head if they're clean, if they're not clean. And just to let you guys know that what I've seen on groups is that the ARP head bolts are snapping in people's heads, so be careful with those. But
yeah, pretty much like what he said. I've seen that multiple times too over the last 2 months. Because I don't know if it was like a bad batch or what, but multiple people ended up snapping like ARP bolts in their head. But it might be due to them not chasing the threads. But pretty much all we did to chase our threads was an old head bolt. We did 2 slits in it, and with the angle grinder, and used that as our tap, pretty much, just to chase the threads, as opposed to using an actual tap to do it and having risk fucking snapping it. I don't know where it's at, but
yeah, it's right here. You see 2 slits, and it's a normal head bolt. Alright guys, we got the studs in there hand tight. Now what we're gonna go ahead and do next is put the nuts on, as you can see over here. Put the nuts on. Oh shit. Put the washers on. And then put the nuts on, and then we'll get to that, and we'll show you guys how to torque everything down, and we'll go from there. Alright guys, so the way we're gonna be torquing everything down is we're gonna start with
Alright, so right now we're gonna start torquing it down. We're gonna be doing 3 sequences. We're gonna be doing 30, 50, 70 in the proper sequence. Like we done previously. These ain't, you know, genuine ARP studs, because apparently valen verga. So we're gonna be doing just the Chinesium shit. So that's why we're not doing whatever torque spec they have. I forget what it was. I don't know if it was 75 or 80, whatever. So we're only gonna do 70 just because of previous videos we watched. The knockoffs tend to break, and that's one thing we don't want to happen. Even with the reputable, you know, made in USA brands, they fucking snap too, based on what we were talking about earlier. But we're gonna start doing that right now in the proper sequence and call it good.
Alright guys, here after the next day, here after a few days of checking the push rods, we'll go ahead and leave a link to the video that we used to how to properly check your push rod length. But we ended up just getting a basic 7/400, which makes sense because we never decked the head surface or the block surface. They are different lifters, but for even after adding our preload on our lifters, we got 7/400s, and so we're just gonna use the 7/400s. We got them right here, brand new, the Amazon special, and then we clean them with brake clean. Made sure you could see straight through them, make sure all the oil passages were fine, and then we got them chilling in oil right now. So we're gonna go ahead and put them in right now, and we'll show you guys when they're in, and then how to properly torque them down. Alright guys, the way we're torquing them down is making sure the top dead center. So what you want to do is go ahead and spin your crank bolt, and you'll know you're at top dead center when your rocker arm starts moving and it's all the way up like this. It's all the way up like this when I'd say, and you spin it over and it's not moving, that's top dead center. We choose to do it in the line, and then once they're all torqued down, see, like you wouldn't torque this one down right here because obviously it's pushing down and it has load on it, but we choose to do it in the line and then check them all again, and then after that you should be good. Alright guys, I got the intake in. As you can see, the fuel line is connected back there. That's the only thing that's connected so far. What I went ahead and did is just ran down all the 8mm bolts that are on the intake. That's all I did. And then next what I'm gonna do is go ahead and just tighten them down with a 1/4" ratchet, and in sequence. If I find the sequence, well, if I can insert it in the video, I'll throw the sequence right here, and then I'm gonna torque it down in that sequence and hook it up everything, and then figure out the manifolds from there. Alright guys, since the last clip, what my brother has done is got the manifold in with the manifold gaskets. We just ran down the bolts a little bit just so we can have the verge to move the manifolds like this, because it is a pain in the ass to get this white pipe in. But what we're gonna go ahead and do now is try to squeeze in this white pipe. I can't really record because it's kind of down there and it's a pain in the ass to do. But hopefully in the next clip we have it in. I'd say we'll have it in like 15 minutes, and then we'll just start wrapping everything else up. From there, truly that's the hardest thing to get in. Once that's in, all bolted up, turbo's clocked correctly, the cold side's connected to the turbo, and the exhaust is on, we'll have a straight shot to get this baby running. So I'll show you guys once hopefully the white pipe is in.
All right guys, so this is like a few minutes later. We got the crossover pipe in. It wasn't too bad. So essentially what we did is we had one guy on the bottom and then one guy on top, no homo, lifting it up and whatnot, and then we just lined up the studs on the manifolds on this side and on that side. We put 2 nuts on, one on each, and then we round them down, and then we fucking sent the other 4 on, and we called it good. We had those tight, and then we tightened the manifolds up. Those are all good. Right now we're gonna try to clean up some of the wiring over here. Some of these wires over here were getting fried by the manifold, but that was before it got wrapped. So we haven't noticed any changes, but we ended up just rigging up this spark plug boot thing just for now, and it's held up just fine. So we just got a few little things here and there. We'll probably more than likely be able to start it within the next hour. It's just gonna be kind of tedious to do, but we'll get it done.
All right, guys, so we got everything down there all tightened up. We got the exhaust in, we got the power steering lines tightened up, we got the oil drain tightened up. Now all that's left up here is to tighten up is to get the quiet packs in, get these spark plugs in. The spark plugs that we're running are the NGKs. There's the part number, BR7EF3346. This is how they look. These are the previous ones we were running, and they were running great. Our tuner set to gap them to 0.28. Where is it at? It'd be around right there. So that's where we're gonna gap them to, and then we're gonna slap them in, get the coil packs in, and finishing everything up here. Get oil in it, get coolant in it, and fire this baby up. All right, guys. A while later, we got mostly everything in. We got the spark plugs in. We got the spark plug wires in. We got the oil catch can in. Got the sensors in. Got the alternator in. Got it plugged in. Got some coolant in the system. We filled it in from the top of the water pump. Now we're just gonna fill the rest up in the radiator. And then what we're gonna do from here, put the battery in, overlook everything, put the belt in, and then prime the system, get oil pumping through the oil feed, and then plug it in, and it should start. But I'll update you guys when we're closer to that. Yeah.
All right, guys, so we're pretty much at the step where we're gonna do our first crank. Like my brother said, we unplugged our terminals for our fuel pumps, so we could just prime the car and not start it. We don't want to start the car with the turbo bone dry on oil, so we're just gonna make sure there's oil in the feed, and then once there's oil in the feed, we'll hook it up. We'll crank it up a few more times to build up the oil pressure, then we'll hook up the pumps, and we'll be all set. Everything's pretty much all set in place. It's not too bad. We're kind of nervous, but you know, we've done this before where we did a complete engine rebuild, so top end rebuild won't be as bad, but we'll see how it goes. All right, guys, we're gonna begin doing this now. So one thing I'm looking for is the fuel pressure, and then
I'm not gonna have fuel pressure.
Oh, you're right. No, so just that right there. Go ahead. Keep going. Keep going. Más. Yep, keep going. Hold on, let me adjust it better. Tal vez it's... No quiere la way. Oh, ahí va, bro. Damn, hold on, look.
You're leaking?
Look at this oil.
What?
Dang, that shit looks dusty as fuck. Look. Alright, guys, we'll be right back. We're gonna see what this is.
Alright, boys.
Alright, guys, so we're not sure why the oil looked like that, but either way, the oil that's in the car right now is just literally just oil just to make sure everything sounds right. Then we're gonna run motor flush to it, and then we're gonna drain it obviously, and then put new better oil in it. But right now my brother's gonna go ahead and do the honors on doing the first start of the second rebuild.
Alright, guys, so after getting the car all ready and running, you know, we took it off for a few pulls. First pull, we let this bitch rip. it chirped the tires when we were sliding. We were being violent on it basically. But then I guess none of us reviewed the boost lines, and you can probably tell what's coming next. You can see this boost line destroyed, and then you see this boost line over here destroyed, and then you see the turbo. Try to get you a better view, but there you go. The turbine got fucking destroyed. So right now what we're doing is we're gonna try to take off the faceplate, take it off and look at the turbine. And we might just buy a new turbine, but we also did find the same T4 78, 75, 96, 0.96 AR turbo with the billet wheel, but it's a Gen 2.5, so this is Gen 1. And we might just end up buying that one, but we're gonna see. If we wanna stick to our budget, we're just gonna replace the turbine and send it without getting it balanced. But since we're both doing good on cash right now, we might just go ahead and upgrade turbos, or maybe even go with the Precision or Borg Warner. But it won't be too bad to fix. I mean, the car sounds good. Lifters, we know we don't have lifter failure anymore, and we know the engine's good. But let's check out this turbo, and I'll show you guys when everything's off.